For years I tried to believe my parents just disapproved of my marriage, but when they finally met my family, I realized their problem was never with timing, it was with the color of my husband's skin. I used to think family meant a net. The kind that catches you when you fall and then holds you until your breath returns. I believed that even when my parents were strict, even when they were dramatic, even when they said things like we just want the best for you and meant we want the version of you that fits in our picture frame. I believed it right up until the day I married a man who didn't fit, and the net turned out to be a trap that snapped shut behind me. I met Adrian at 23, when I was still calling what I did having a job instead of building a life. He was my manager back then, older by 9 years, the kind of calm that makes a room quieter without raising its voice. I don't have a better way to describe him except to say he listens like it's useful, like the world gets sorted when you speak. It started as long lunches we both insisted were about work. It became talking about books, then old music, then the small, embarrassing hopes most people don't say out loud because they're afraid of jinxing themselves. He quit before we ever went on an actual date. He said the paperwork matters. My parents were furious anyway because they specialize in preemptive anger. When I brought him home, my mother smiled the way you smile when the photographer says say cheese and your cheeks twitch with resentment. My father shook Adrian's hand with his eyes on me, like my skin was a window. They didn't say anything openly racist, they're too practiced for that. They said, "Are you sure he's right for you? And you moved too fast and how could you possibly know?" They said, "We're not comfortable," which is a sentence that pretends to be about sofas but is always about power. When we got engaged, they told me I was breaking their hearts, as if hearts are fragile heirlooms a daughter is meant to dust. They skipped the wedding. They sent a text the night before, "We can't support this." I stared at the screen until the little gray bubble stopped pretending to be words. I married Adrian in a dress my grandmother would have loved, under a sycamore tree that dropped a leaf into his hair while he said vows he wrote on the back of a takeout menu. Our friends clapped like percussion. We ate cake standing up. I cried after everyone left, not because I doubted my choice, but because I'd always believed family would choose me back. They didn't. For 5 years they didn't. I learned the anatomy of silence, the way it stretches into holidays, into birthdays, into stray Tuesday afternoons when you pass a woman who smells like your mother's perfume and suddenly your throat thinks it should be 10 again. I learned to send gifts without return addresses and to check an old email once a month for a note that never came. I learned to be a wife without an audience. Adrian and I built a home the slow way. We painted the kitchen the color of warm bread because a designer on YouTube said it makes mornings kinder. We bought a used couch with ridiculous tufting and a dent where 2 people could become a pile on bad days. We learned how to fight like grown-ups, no walking out, no saying the word always, no pretending I can read his mind just because I've memorized the shape of his hands. When we found out we were pregnant, we cried into the same towel because it was closer than tissues. When the nurse told us at the 20-week scan that there were 2 heartbeats, I laughed so hard I scared the sonographer. Twins. As if the universe had decided to overcompensate. Our daughters arrived on a rainy morning that turned into sun by lunchtime. We named them Nina and Soleil because we wanted one name that sounded like music and one that sounded like light. Adrian learned to swaddle like a magician. I learned the kind of tired that makes you hallucinate shoes where there are potatoes. Our apartment filled with the low hum of babies and laundry and the way love sounds when it's exhausted, soft, constant, unfinished. When the girls were 8 months old, my mother texted. It was a photo of a grocery store greeting card with a stork on it. Underneath, "I heard you had children." The ellipsis felt like a trapdoor. I showed Adrian the message, bracing for his anger. He just put his hand on the back of my neck and said, "What do you want?" I wanted everything and nothing. I wanted my mother to apologize and my father to learn what his own voice sounds like when it isn't telling me I am wrong. I wanted them to walk into our home and see their granddaughters and forget how to disapprove. I wanted to press a reset button that didn't exist. My mother called the next day while I was trying to convince Nina that peas are not an insult. "We should meet," she said. "You shouldn't keep the girls from their grandparents." She didn't ask about Adrian. She didn't say his name. I said yes because I am an optimist until I am a disaster. We picked a Saturday. We cleaned the apartment like men in commercials who think cleaning product is romance. I baked the lemon cake my mother taught me when I was 12 because I am either sentimental or an idiot. The jury is still out. They arrived exactly on time. My mother wore pearls like she was auditioning for a different life. My father brought an outfit for each baby, tag still on, the kind of clothes you can only put on a stationary fetus. "They're big for 8 months, he said, which is the kind of thing people say when they mean I don't know what to say. Adrian smiled and said, "They like to eat," and my father's face did a small, ugly thing that I didn't understand until later. For an hour, everyone behaved. My mother did grandmother without an accent, the same way she did hostess when I was a kid, handing out napkins like blessings. My father asked about milestones. He didn't look at Adrian except with the corner of his eye, like a person avoiding a bright window. After we ate, my mother asked to see the nursery. We all went down the hall together because that's what you do when a baby room is a plot point. My father stopped at the doorway. He stared at the wall where we'd put up a gallery of family photos, my grandmother at 9 with her hair in braids, Adrian's parents dancing in a tiny kitchen, our wedding picture under the tree. It happened fast and slow. My father pointed at our wedding photo. He used a word my family has never said aloud, the word he insists he's never used, the word that turns blood into ice. He said it in the offhand tone of a man reaching for familiar tools. I can't believe you married that." The rest of the sentence hung there like smoke. Adrian went very still. The girls were both on the floor with a pile of blocks, concentrating. My mother made a small sound, a drawer closing on a finger. I felt the world tilt. "What did you say?" I asked. My voice sounded like a new person's. It had edges. He repeated it, like it was proof he was still in charge of the room. Something strange happened then. I didn't explode. I didn't cry. I didn't try to translate or broker peace or take my mother's hand and ask her to fix her husband. I knelt and lifted Nina and Soleil one by one and handed them to Adrian. He held them without shifting his gaze. I stepped between my father and the pictures. "You don't get to be here," I said. "Not near them." My mother started crying the way actresses cry when they want ransom. "He didn't mean," she began. "He did," I said, and looked at her until she stopped mid-sob. "He meant it the first time when you were uncomfortable. He meant it when you skipped my wedding. He means it when he won't say Adrian's name." My father tried to talk about respect, the kind adult children owe their elders like interest on a debt. He tried to tell me I was dramatic, too sensitive, the phrases men keep in their front pockets for emergencies. He said he loved me. He said family is family. He said grandchildren need grandparents. He said history. "History is exactly what this is," I said. "You skip the part where you're the bad guy." I asked them to leave. I didn't raise my voice. I opened the door, the way you do when a salesman doesn't respond to no, "Thank you." My mother begged for another chance. My father looked like stone thrown into a pond and then freezing before it could sink. They left with the little outfit still in a bag on our couch. My mother texted from the elevator, "You'll regret this." My father sent nothing. I shut the door and leaned against it because doors are solid in a way people aren't. Adrian set the girls in their playpen and came to me with that careful slowness you use around sleeping animals and people walking through shock. He didn't say I'm sorry. He didn't say I should have stopped him. He said, "I love you," like the vow it is, without performance. I said it back, and then I said, "I'm tired," which might be the truest sentence I've ever spoken. When I finally sat down, I realized my hands were shaking only when I saw the lemon cake knife tremble on the plate. I thought about every argument I'd had with my parents where they said it wasn't about race, it was about age, it was about workplace dynamics, it was about propriety. 5 years of it isn't what you think condensed into a single filthy syllable. It was like looking at an old map and suddenly seeing the coastline for what it is, not an accident of ink, but a border someone drew. We expected fallout. It arrived as a family group chat suddenly resurrected like a zombie. My aunt said I was ungrateful. My cousin sent a 2-paragraph DM about honoring your father and mother that included exactly 0 words about honoring your spouse. Someone I hadn't spoken to in a decade told me to be the bigger person. Big is relative, I chose to be a wall. 2 days later, my father sent an email. There was no apology in it. There was a list of my flaws, printed out like an invoice. Disrespectful. Impulsive. Ideologically captured, he loves that one, because he read it in an article once and thinks it makes him sound like a professor. At the end he wrote, "We don't see color, we see character." The sentence stood there, self-satisfied and blind, like a dog wearing sunglasses. I replied with one line, "You saw color first." We hired a therapist who specializes in what she called family of origin injuries, which makes it sound like my parents were a sports accident I failed to rehab. She drew a diagram of our system and said, "You learn to make everyone okay by making yourself smaller." She asked me to sit with the idea that protecting my children is more important than finishing my parents' unfinished homework. She said, very gently, "You can love people and also not let them into your house." She gave me permission I didn't know I was waiting for. We wrote boundaries the way you write household rules when toddlers start walking. No contact until there's a real apology. No, "I'm sorry you were offended." No, "both sides." No, "this is not who we are." No visits. No photos. No access. If an apology ever came, it would be the start of a probation period, not a party. My mother tried to triangulate, the way she does when she wants a softer answer. She sent flowers with a card that said, "We said things in the heat of the moment." I sent them to the NICU fund at the hospital where our girls were born and texted the receipt with a thank you. She responded with a thumbs up emoji, which is how people say I hate you without typing it. My father showed up in our lobby once. The concierge called me with a voice that sounded like a man reporting a weather event. "He says he's here to see his granddaughters," he said. I said, "He's not," and stayed upstairs while Adrian stood in the entryway like a quiet wall made of all the ways a person can be brave. My father left after 20 minutes. He didn't look up at the camera. He knew where the red dots are. Sometimes I feel sorry for the version of me that was still trying to earn her way back into a house that locked itself from the inside. I bring her coffee in my mind and let her cry and tell her, gently, that people show you their deepest beliefs by what they won't say sorry for. Then I hand her the babies and she remembers where the light is. We're not saints. Grief still surprises me in grocery stores when I see a woman who could be my mother telling a stranger her peach selection is wrong. Anger still flares when a friend says, "Maybe your dad didn't mean it," and I wonder what it would take for him to mean it. I still write texts to my mother in my head sometimes, "He apologized, we can try," then delete them before my thumbs get involved. The twins are 20 months old now, they say "oh" like a song. I say "oh" back, but my "ohs" are about me almost going soft where I need to be steel. Adrian doesn't ask me to forgive people to make his life easier. He doesn't tell me to move on. He puts the girls in their stroller and walks them around the block when I need to sit in the bathroom and cry into a towel like a movie cliche. He corrects people gently when they pronounce his name wrong, and if they bristle, he doesn't bend. At night he reads to the girls from a book about animals who live in families where everyone's stripes look different, and he pauses after the page that says love is a pattern you learn. He looks at me like we are learning it. I keep thinking about the word inheritance. I used to think it was money or plates or a ring. Now I think it's the words your children hear most often. Mine will grow up hearing I'm sorry and I love you, and we don't speak to people who try to shrink us. They will grow up hearing Adrian's laugh, which is a low bell, and the soft click of our door locking because safety is not drama, it's maintenance. They will grow up seeing their mother choose them and their father first, even when the world says blood should trump everything. Blood is a metaphor. Behavior is the rule. Last week, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was a photo of me at 6, gap-toothed and lemon cake proud, holding a blue ribbon from a spelling bee. Tucked behind it was a folded note, "Call us. We miss you." There was a smear of something like perfume on the paper. I sat with it for a long time, feeling the old ache and the new steel fight under my skin. Then I slid the ribbon into a frame for the twins' room because they should know their mother was always good with words. I put the note in the drawer where I keep things that prove the past happened. I didn't call. Here is what I wish I could say to every daughter who thinks she is supposed to be a translator for people who refuse to learn the language. You cannot save someone else from the beliefs they are married to. You can choose your home. You can say no to hands that only reach for you to pull you back. You can name what happened, and the naming will not make you cruel, it will make you free. We are okay. Better than okay, sometimes. The twins learned to dance with that stompy toddler determination, and our downstairs neighbor leaves us notes that say 5/5 stars, would recommend those moves again. We have a lemon cake recipe taped to the inside of a cabinet now, my handwriting over my mother's, and when I bake it, Adrian takes the girls to the balcony and they bang on a metal bowl with a wooden spoon in what I pretend is a respectful drumline. We send slices across the hall to the neighbor with the old dog and the young niece and the loud laugh. We had extra frosting because we can. When people ask about my parents, I say the truth in the least dramatic way I can manage. We're not in contact right now. If they press, I say, it wasn't safe for my family. If they press harder, I change the subject to something honest and small, like the fact that our daughters love strawberries and hate socks. I don't make my parents villains in every story because they don't deserve that much real estate in our present. They were villains in one. That's enough. Maybe one day my father will write a real apology, the kind that names the word he used without tempering it, the kind that says I was wrong and I am working to be different. Maybe my mother will learn how to love a daughter without making that love conditional on shrinking. Maybe not. Until then, the net I believed in is the one Adrian and I are tying ourselves. Every grocery run, every diaper change, every midnight song that's just humming because the words escape you when you're tired and somehow that's its own language. It holds. It's enough. And when I look at my daughters sleeping cheek to cheek with their hands thrown up in surrender to morning, I feel something truer than inheritance or duty or blood. I feel home.